Okay, so today I'm going to venture out of Vermont. We spent a little time here. I had some things to do, so it doubles as a good excuse to kind of check out the state. So I think it was my first time ever being here in my whole life. Maybe when I was super young and I don't remember, but I don't think so. So it was let's recap on Vermont. Vermont's a very small, underpopulated state, one of the least populated states in the country. It is... The most famous person is Bernie Sanders, which maybe is a sad commentary. Not too many famous people there. There's the Bennington Monument is one notable thing. I don't know if I even got the chance to show that really, but I went through there. As you can see it like from behind the Walmart there, it's pretty funny. And then, you know, it's only got like 6 Walmarts. Walmart hates them, or they hate Walmart. They have this, you know, good protection of small businesses, which as a minimalist myself, I should kind of appreciate, but it shouldn't necessarily have to be forced by the government that like they try to stop them from coming in. It should be more that the public and consumers don't buy into that. Liquor stores are owned by the state only, right? Wine can be sold in grocery stores, which is different from New York. Like to some extent you can sell wine in grocery stores, but not like the full on. They have like a full selection of wine in grocery stores here. There's a few differences there. Again, liquor is owned by the state only, the liquor stores. And then, what else is notable? Burlington is the biggest city, which isn't that big at all. It feels like just a regular city. It's very small, very rural kind of state, even though the land mass, you know, geography isn't too small. The actual, you know, population is small, everything like that, which is shocking when you compare it to, like, you know, again, much smaller geographical states that have apparently a similar population. So there's a lot of empty space, a lot of farmland, a lot of most number of distilleries in the country, most number of, you know, just all different fun facts. There's no McDonald's in the capital, which we're right near the capital right now, Montpelier, however you say it, which is like, oh, it's a fun fact trivia. It's the only state without a McDonald's, and that's how we define America. The only state without a capital that doesn't have a McDonald's, but there is one right next to it. Like there's this town called Barre that I was just in, Barre, and that is hey, how's it going? That does have a McDonald's, so it's a bit of a false stat because you can just go like a few miles out. That's why they probably don't have one there. But it's just a testament to how small of a... Frankfort, Iowa? No. This is Vermont, like Barre, Vermont, or I guess we could be in the next town now. But yeah, this is like a very small state with very small towns, a lot of rural, suburban places. Like, that's what I would say. The whole state is suburban. There is no big city. Even Burlington, which was supposed to be a big city, it really wasn't. But now I'm going through into New Hampshire, which isn't that far, actually. You know what's funny? I actually kind of forgot New Hampshire existed or where it was. Because as I was doing this, I'm like, I have to go to Maine for something, right? And so I was going here on the way, and I spent a little time here. I totally forgot that we were going to go through New Hampshire. I was just like, oh, we'll go from Vermont to Maine. Like, NA geography. I literally did not even place that New Hampshire was there. But no, like the most famous person, Bernie Sanders. What other fun facts? We have most number of distilleries in the country, apparently. Least number of Walmarts, I guess, in the country, or whatever, only like 6 Walmarts. The Walmarts that you do have are not even like super center Walmarts either. They're like, you know, the old school, which I didn't realize those even existed anymore. I thought they had all kind of converted. Like, they don't have a pharmacy, or they're kind of not that big. It looks like one section, you know, it doesn't look like the full 2 parts. So now we'll do some facts about New Hampshire when we get there, but I don't want to spend too much time there, actually, because I have to go to Maine. That was the whole point of this. But hey, hi from Italy. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, there's some kind of frustrating spots of this trip through Vermont that would, like, there's nothing for miles. Like, I have to use the bathroom and there's nowhere to go because there's just nothing there, right? There's no stores, no fast food, nothing. So in a way, it's a good thing. But see, like, that's kind of the fallacy of reliance. Like, oh, it's like you rely on those things. So what would you do without Burger King? What would you do without McDonald's? All these modern conveniences. It's not so much that, well, you've been made to rely on them by modern society, but it's like, oh, you could just go out and do it in the woods, or you could just, so you're acquiescing to society, but then society monopolizes everything as like, oh, well, you can only do it where we allow you to do it. So it's a two-way street. If you want to say, okay, we don't need McDonald's, Burger, we don't need any of those things, but then I'll go do it out in the woods, or I'll just do whatever I want. So you're acquiescing to it, but then it's also kind of holding that over you, like, oh, look how you rely on us, right? It's like the corporations will monopolize all of nature itself, all the resources around the world, and then they'll say, oh, see how you need us, you rely on us, what would you do without us? It's like, what would we do without you? All the resources in the world would be free to everyone, which would be still adequate, but especially when you consider, hey, Ann, how's it going? Hi from Korea. We're getting a lot of people from different places. We got Germany, Italy, Korea. Nice. Maybe it's the time of day that I'm doing this. I normally don't stream so early. But yeah, it's kind of like, what would we do without big corporations or whatever? It's like, oh, you'd be free in nature. And of course, the mass number of people makes that seem a little less credible. See, that's the whole basis by which anything is controlled, actually. This is the problem. The number of people, there's like this pseudo-humanism that's used in a selective pretense way, right? Like, oh, for the sake of people, don't you value people? Like human propaganda, which might seem good, but it goes against even amalgam theory, but it's kind of like, it'll be used as a pretense, but then it'll prop up a specific regime or a specific government, specific society, specific corporation. So it'll be used as a tool, right? The general supposed value for people and, other people, the collective mass of people. And so on that basis too, the more people there are, the more controlled you are. It's like, oh, now you need more permits, more passes, more permissions. You have less freedoms. You have to sacrifice more for the collective. And the more people there are, the less free you are, even despite whatever overcompensation of technology you might have that you might attribute to that mass collective of people still. So you try to balance it out like that. Technology balances out repression and that. But the thing is that you basically put yourself in a position where I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, basically, you rely or you defer. So it's kind of like, what would you do without, like, let's use the parents example, for example. What would you do without your parents taking care of you, even at the age of 5 or something? Well, what you would do would be something possibly that society wouldn't want you to do, even if you're more than capable of doing. Even a 5-year-old kid, could they go out and pick berries and figure things out and survive if they really had to? They maybe could, not that I'm encouraging that, but like, they're being prevented from even trying to do it. So it's, oh, you rely on us, but the same people saying you rely on them would be stopping you from not relying on them, right? In the name of, oh, we're protecting you. And that age might be a little unfair too, but like, okay, you're 10, you're 15. They're preventing you from doing that. And the only way that you can do it is through some secondary means, like, oh, you can earn for a living for yourself, but oh, you need to acquiesce to big corporations hiring you and doing it through that. Not just like, oh, you want to go out in nature and hunt and fish and figure it out. You might think, oh, people can't do that, but it's more that they're not allowed to do that, right? That, like, you can't really just do that. You go live out in the wild, you'll be, trespassing, or there'll be all kind of laws and permits you have to acquiesce to. So that's what it shows you, is like, it might seem like there's some benevolent reason for those things, but it's actually just to control you, because at the end of the day, you could just be free and then you don't need the system at all. And that's it. Like, you'll make certain sacrifices and concessions, sure, but you're not allowed to really make that choice. So again, the same people, I call it means validation, who hold things over your head are the same ones that you defer to, that you don't have to defer to. You say, okay, I won't defer to you, or give you monopoly over means, nature itself. The same ones who already have the advantage of being established before you're even born, right? The ones who are, took things by force originally, benefited from the privilege of empires, basically, or again, using means validation, the problem with means validation is it would apply to anything ever then, right? World War II Germany had means validation. They have resources, they have the government. That doesn't make them right or that you should accept everything they say, right? China right now would have means validation. Like, oh, how can you question it? They're the government. It would apply anywhere. So it's really an uncritical lens to look at the world at. But that's kind of how people gravitate, and it kind of ties in the bread and circuses part. Like, they're just going along to get along, but it's not really a standard. It's not really credible. What other fun facts do we have about Vermont that I had done? The McDonald's thing, the Walmart thing, the distillery, most number of distilleries, only state with no McDonald's in the capital, only like 6 Walmarts, they're not super Walmarts, Walmart hates Vermont, whatever lore you could say there. Very rural, very suburban kind of state, not a lot of big cities, a lot of farmland, not a lot of famous people maybe. So I guess the Bennington Monument might be the most noteworthy thing to see, or just certain parts of Burlington, I guess. I don't know exactly what specific one. Ben and Jerry's comes from there. So I've seen like a Ben and Jerry's store, which they don't have those in New York. Right, like an actual... Maybe they don't have them anywhere, and they only have them here because it's from here. I don't know. But... yeah, okay, getting to the actual topic here, though, that was just a little recap on and these are what the roads look like. Like, this will be the state highway or whatever. You have to go like 40 or 50 miles, and it's like, you might think, oh, I'm waiting to get on a major road, but I'm not. This is the major road. I have to go here for 24 miles, and that's basically the whole trip, right? Like, all to New Hampshire. So I kind of like the low-key minimalistic quality of it, but it's the sort of thing that's like halfway, because, okay, if you want to be like that, then be like that all the way. Like, so could I go out in the woods and just sleep on the ground and nobody would bother me? And like, it's kind of one extreme or the other. Because like, you still see like, oh, there's still industry, there's still franchises, so it's nice that they've tried to retain some local vibe, but I'd say you have to do one extreme or the other, or even it goes along the lines of again, should the government really have to do that? Jesus, that hill was more steep than I realized. A lot of dairy farms, a lot of just, again, rural kind of areas. So I'll come back in the winter and shoot a short film version of Until Dawn here, because it'd be so cool. I just had that thought. Like, I'll recreate Until Dawn in like a movie, and I'll shoot it. I thought they were making a movie of it, actually. And you do it in the mountains here somewhere, because, it would just look very fitting. Call up Rami Malek to do it. He goes from that to being a James Bond villain. Like, it's just his voice and the way he talks is kind of like that, where it's kind of a little weird or creepy or odd. But no, I think about a self-awareness concept of like, you'd be self-aware of something so that you can counteract it, or you deliberately choose it, or it doesn't matter. Slow down, I like that. So yeah, let's look at like non-choice reaction that yeah, that felt like a minimalistic adventure, though, just because, again, the state is like that. But, it's tough, because it's like, oh, you'd like to support local businesses or something, but then it takes too long, or you have to go out of your way. And it's like, okay, the easy default is what controls people, which is like, That's why the way you're controlled in the modern day isn't by force as much, although at the basis is still force. Like the base of how corporations and governments even came to be is by force. They took over land, etc., originally. But if you, so it's like take monopoly over everything, like nature itself, by force. That's step one. Then the descendants of the people who were originally a victim of that or whatever, or even benefited from that, will now squabble over little things and petty morality. But the basis of that state is still the unqualified monopoly over nature itself and everything, means, validation, etc. So what happens next is now it becomes a contest of contrivance, where who can put up the best appearances to overcompensate for that unqualified original monopolization over means or nature itself, etc., right? And then, that's why it comes down to, in a weird way, this ties into something Steve Jobs said, where you already have the Coca-Cola, you already have the product, so now it just becomes about who can do the best marketing, advertising. That takes over because we've already conceded the market share to them, right? Like, the same way monopoly over nature, the corporations already own the world, rule the world, so now it's just a matter of which one can get you with the best ads, or which one can, appeal to your memes and stuff. That becomes what it's about, not the inherent, oh, wait a second, even the accountability of the product or something like that, which there's some element of that originally would have had to be good for them to get to the point of being so successful, but it's the original, you're just deferring and letting them have that free reign over something that would be free to all people, nature itself. Nobody really owns nature, and you can say, well, somebody earned it, but they earned it from some original point of just it being taken by force and taken, but it was never really possessed. And it's just a natural reality, right? If it wasn't, you find me where you would say, oh, something is owned in a deserved way originally, that it wasn't just taken by force in some way that you would condemn. A bunch of people come over and kill a bunch of people. That doesn't validate it, right? If you want to do a finders keepers, first come first serve thing, okay, then the people who were there originally deserve it. But even then, I don't know, none of that really matters. Right, so there would be no basis for it, so now it becomes a contest of contrivance, who can overcompensate best or put up the best appearances to mask that fact. And then the other aspect is, again, so once you've established all that, now it also becomes a case of, it's what's the third layer? There's a three layers, right? You take the monopoly over means, then you have the contest of contrivance, and then you do something else that I've talked about before. I can't remember. It's you make it so easy or inevitable, kind of in aid of the first two. So why do people go to franchises or things like that, even if they kill the local economy and mom and pop shops and stuff like that, even end up hurting them? Why do they use AI if it's going to put you out of a job? Why do they use self-checkout, right? So people will take the path of least resistance or the easiest thing, but that resistance is manufactured to try to curate that outcome. So it means you're in a position to, again, monopoly over nature itself is taken, and so now it's easier to just give in. And again, there's a bread and circuses element to it. It's easier and convenient just to give in to the corporations than to think for yourself, be free, self-actualize in nature. It's easier, and it's almost inevitable because, again, they monopolize nature itself, etc. So it's just because it's easier doesn't mean that that's really what you would want to do, but it's you make it sort of easy and inevitable because everywhere you go, there are those things, there are those franchises. Again, they monopolize nature itself, so it makes it almost impossible. It's sort of like the middleman effect. No matter what you do, what you believe, what your stances are, the middlemen rule the world, and you still go through them, right? No matter what you're doing, there's still Walmart, there's still banks, there's still, right, those things you cannot escape. So, right, there's the illusion of choice. So the other aspect with that is the fact that part looks a little rougher, this whole area that we're in now. Some of the other parts are a little nicer. But, yeah, it's like the illusion of choice. So, you make it inevitable. Mom and pop store, the products that they're getting are still going to be from a big corporation, ultimately, right? So it's like you can't escape it. So make it inevitable by taking monopoly over nature itself, etc., and then make it so easy and convenient and even pleasurable or nice, like, oh, we're going to dress it up with social contrivance, and oh, the cashier and stuff's going to be nice to you, and oh, we're going to give you all these nice little treats and bread and circuses and convenience. So you're ruled by your own convenience that way. You're slaving away, struggling for things that you don't even need. You're controlled by things you don't even want, right? It's used as like an overcompensation, similar to youth means validation. Like when you're young, it's like, oh, I have this image from a short story of mine where there's like this kid sitting at a birthday party, their own birthday party, and they're sitting like neutral, and it's like, oh, they're not sad or mad. They're like, but oh, it's like they're sulking or they're being a bad sport. But it's like they're realizing the nature of society in that moment. It's kind of like an epiphany. Like they're going to try to overcompensate for the fact that they're controlling you, and they never had a basis to do that in the first place. Like they're indoctrinating you in youth before you can think for yourself, and et cetera, et cetera. So they're controlling every aspect of your life, and now they'll do these overcompensations as if that makes up for it. Oh, we'll get you toys, we'll throw you a birthday party, we'll give you cake, we'll give you candy. That's like training an animal. That's like, oh, we're going to give you a reward punishment system like we're conditioning you. That doesn't actually validate the original basis of there's no basis to control you and restrict you in the first place, right? So you reject those overcompensations because you know that they're tied to a subversive state. And then, so you wouldn't be happy with it, you wouldn't embrace it. Or even the fallacy of tradition, like, oh, why do I need permission? Like, oh, birthday. Why couldn't I just do that any day that I want, or every day, or never? Why do I have to be controlled by that? Like, I need the permission of society for when I can do something like that, right? And so one of the other aspects is the fact that you're looking at kind of like the illusion of choice, and what is the point of that? There's like a place where it looks like you can park your car, but there's all those little poles blocking it. But no, like, I realize everything is manufactured to try to curate an outcome. So when you say something is like a false absolute default, it's not a default in nature, it's a default of people. Like, oh, these corporations created this system so that you have to do this. That doesn't mean that's really what you'd want to do or what you should ideally do. Right, so, oh, you have to go through a bank, you have to go through this, you have to go through that. Everything you do, right, the middlemen of the world rule you, so. So you can be aware of the nature of the process, but again, it's made to be so inevitable, so convenient, so unavoidable, so even pleasurable that, like, okay, they're going to overcompensate, and oh, it's easier to give in to the contrivance that rules you than to not, right? So even in an era where, oh, it's not by force, even though the origin of monopoly of nature and by government was force, right? That's how they conquered this land. That's how they, where you live, and that's how they got where they are with the resources that they have. But even if you want to say, well, somebody earned it or they did a good product or something like that, the origin point of that was still unqualified, but, you know, again, taken by force, and then we can squabble over the spoils of that force. So it's not really validated or absolute. But then, again, you make it easier to just go along. It's easy just to work for a big corporation and just not think for yourself. Because if you don't, then, oh, you'll struggle because they monopolize everything and you have to. Or it's easier just to go along with the conveniences that those same corporations will give you back. Like, oh, you can just, not have to think, not have to do too much. You get all these hedonistic pleasures and distractions, bread and circuses. Right? It's easier to do that. That's why the mass of people does it. Not because they really would choose that or they want that or anything like that. So the thing is that That's one cool thing about Vermont too. I forgot to mention, they don't have any tolls here. Maybe it's because it's an underpopulated state and they want to encourage people to travel, but that is one, and maybe their taxes are high or something, but that's one thing that, they don't actually have any tolls, except for maybe on a very few mountain road seasonal things, but effectively they don't have tolls, so that's kind of cool. Hey, how's it going? What am I doing? I'm driving from Vermont to New Hampshire, and we're almost there. So one of the other things I was saying is that the one who stands, this is something also from one of my short stories, the one who I'm going a little bit too fast here. The one who stood against contrivance would be defined by contrivance, as if, that makes you a hypocrite, right? So it'd be like, this dude was facing off against trying to, tear down big corporations, but he slept in a bed made by those corporations, one of those corporations, or he ate the food made by those corporations, like, along the way. And it's like, that makes him a hypocrite, or that validates the corporation. See, you relied on them, you validated them. But it's more like you almost couldn't have avoided that, right? To some extent, you could try to be a minimalist and whatever, but it's almost like you wouldn't be allowed to do that, or you wouldn't, like you're almost forced to, because everywhere you go, everything you do, right, there's going to be the hands of a corporation, something like that involved. So, especially if you want to affect that same society, right? It's similar sometimes to what Christians say with like, they're going to try to go to the place where the sinners are. But then in the process, they become corrupted too, because now they're living modern society that might contradict with what they believe. But, that's the only way to get through to other people in their mind, like the way they would say it. But in this way, it's more objective, like, if you were really trying to do that, like, you want to free everybody of corporate control in the modern day and the globalist empire and stuff like that, you would do it begrudgingly, but the most effective way to do that would very well be by exploiting those very same things. It's like, this dude, this character, he was eating fast food every day, and he was, because it was, he didn't have time, or, he would eat very little, or whatever, but like, he would use those things that rule you currently, almost like you couldn't avoid them, to then try to take down those very same things, right? Because if you're trying to do it from the origin point, you try to boycott those things, then you'll never have the ability to actually, you won't last long enough to get through it, or it'll make you a target of them, right? So it's like the idea that, the anarchist renegade is sleeping, in like hiding in plain sight, right? You can just picture, he's sleeping in a car made by a big corporation that he's trying to bust down, and he's also sleeping in a parking lot of some big store, like some big chain, along the way of trying to take down those very same things, right? So it's like, he would have had to do that. Why? Did he want to do that? Did he choose to do that? No, he could have slept on the ground. He would have been happy with that, or he could have done anything. But it's almost like you're not allowed to do that, where everything has to be owned and possessed and competed over, and corporations obviously own and possess the majority of things. It's kind of like you're almost being forced and pressured to do it. So you're aware of the nature of the process and acquiescing to it, so that it doesn't bother you, because it's outwardly insisting and unqualified, but that doesn't validate it. Whereas you're not outwardly insisting anything. You're at peace, you're neutral, etc. So that mass collective is kind of tricked into creating their own subversion that way. So we're going to be edging, we went from edging Canada and Vermont, now we're going to be edging New Hampshire and Vermont, although we're actually going to cut right through. So I think I've maybe had enough of this state for right now, even though I like certain things about it. I think that's enough. We've been here for a little bit, I think I'm done. And one thing I should have done is try like more local restaurants or something notable, but it's hard, I'm in a hurry sometimes, I have things to do, so like, I often don't have time unless I really stay there for a super long time. Yeah, let me rate Vermont on a scale of 1 to 5 as a state. I would give it probably like a 3-star rating, because again, I'll deduct 1 star, like how would I divvy this up. Okay. 1 star would be like the population. And you might think, oh, you prefer a lower population, but just in a net sum, assuming highest population is positive, right? Higher the better. So 1 star relates to population, 1 star relates to like economy or like how it seems to be booming or not. The 3rd star would be to do with like density of people and density of like how far is it to like stores or like, you know, empty space and stuff like that in between. And then the 4th star would have to do with, you know, certain exceptional landmarks and notable things, right, that they're known for. And then the final star would be something to do with just like the general vibe of people, the general vibe of, you know, taxes, government, things like that, right? So assuming out of those 5 stars, let's try to rate. Let's rate New York first, where I'm from anyway. And then we'll do Vermont. So, again, the 5 stars, okay, so population of New York would be a star, because obviously, whether it be the overall population is pretty high, the population of New York City is pretty high, so I'll give it 1 star there. Then the economy is seeing better days. I mean, you would think because of the city it would have to be good, but I'm a little mixed on that one. Like maybe I'll give that one a pass. I'm not sure. But then you compare it to like a small. No, I'll still give it 1 because it's just so urban that you almost have to give it. So 1 star, 1 star, and then 3 would be like the density of stuff, which is very good actually. I'll give it a star for that, because whether it be upstate, there's still a decent amount of Walmarts and stuff like that. But especially, again, when you get to the cities, it's kind of like pick your poison. You can choose to live in a rural area if you want and still be in New York, or you can choose to be in the city. So I'll give it those 3 stars. Then the other 2, maybe not so much. The general vibe of people and the taxes and government, stuff like that, I won't give it that star. And then the other star, we're going to rate all 50 states, tier list. Then the 4th one, I can't remember what I just said. Like what it's known for. I guess I could give it that. Like the Empire State Building in New York City, boroughs and stuff like that. Okay, so I'll give it 4 stars. That's surprising. The economy one people might mock or question a little bit, because it's certainly seen better days. And then here, let's do the same thing with Vermont. So we got the population star. It does not get. It's underpopulated given the landmass, given everything like that. Right. The 2nd star for, let's see, what was it again? I'm just coming up with this criteria on the fly, but like giving it a rate is, you can give New York 3 stars if you want to clown it for the economy, which might be fair to do. But yeah, okay, population, then economy of Vermont doesn't seem really that great, although I'll give it some credit for the small town vibe. So it's hard to kind of judge that. I don't know. Right, like this state with a bunch of big cities, wouldn't the economy be considered good there? But then you'll clown California and New York for having homeless people and stuff, so like, I really don't know what to make of it. I'll just do it based on the net result. Like, okay, if there's huge cities, it must be a good economy, even though that's not really true. So I won't give it the population star. I won't give it the economy star. I'll give it 3 other, maybe, of the other 3. So the density of stuff, I won't give it that one either, because again, there are empty spaces with nothing there for long periods of time. Then number 4 would be what it's known for. I guess I'll give it that. It's known for the Bennington Monument, or it's known for some of the beautiful sites. It's known for the distilleries. It's known for the mountains, right? It's like a vacation spot. So I'll give it that star. And then the 5th star would be like the vibe and the people, I'll give it that one. The fact that it's more small town vibe, that maybe taxes are high, but there's a lot of positive vibe you get from it, right? A small, kind of more close-knit, local element, right? Although that's always a fallacy too when you see that, is like, you know, when there's so many people, do you really get that vibe? Or when everything's being sold out to big corporations, do you really get that vibe? So you'll say like, oh, look, I know this cashier at the local Walmart. So it's like, oh, that's a nice social gratification thing that you'll socialize. It's like, but wait a second. You're doing that in service of a big corporation, right? If you truly value them, you would reject that big corporation and, you know, it'd be like a mom and pop store or something like that. So, right, so you're going to Walmart, but then you're using, the local vibe to reinforce that big multinational globalist corporation. So the thing is that, yeah, so we give Vermont a 2-star rating out of 5. Again, the pluses are the small town vibe, the local community kind of emphasis. The 2nd star is the scenic aspect, the landmarks, the mountains, you know, what it's kind of known for as a tourist destination, sort of, the distilleries, I guess, things like that. And then then the other 3 are that it doesn't get, again, too much empty space, not enough, you know, anything there. Economy maybe is kind of dry a little. Just a lot of rural areas, not enough population for the size of the state, whatever the case may be. And then New York, again, I'll give it the 4, because you got to think, like, what are you comparing it to? As much as you might clown the economy, there's a reason, like, okay, New York City is still New York City, no matter how bad of a state it's in. Compare that to a place that doesn't have New York City, then what? Like, you know, so it's sometimes unfair. But so we gave it, the population is good, both in and out of the city, if you consider it overall. The but no, like, that's the trap of, like, oh, you're in this overextended state that everything is sold out to corporations, but you still pretend to value people on an individual basis or the local vibe. That's a pretty high school speed limit, actually, 40. That's normal. That 40 is like the highway speed. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And school zone, so it goes from 40 to 50. It's normally like 20 or something. That makes no sense. But no, we gave New York 1 star for the population. We gave New York 1 star for the density, that there's plenty of things everywhere. We give it 1 star for the economy, even though that one I'm a little iffy on, but still, just, it's got the cities, it's got some good things going for it. Number 4, we gave it for some of the landmarks, what it's known for. Again, a lot of New York City. And then the 5, we don't give it the general vibe of people and the taxes and the government and stuff like that, right? So New York, we give a 4-star rating. Vermont, we give a 2-star rating. As we now go into New Hampshire, that seems like a fun thing to do. Leave a footnote. Okay, we're almost there. I mean, in fact, we almost feel like you should have crossed over already. Yeah, I won't spend too much time in New Hampshire, but because I do have to get through it, go to Maine. So I like how I forgot it was even there. That is genuine. I was like, oh, we're gonna go through Vermont and into Maine, but what about the state in between? Like, I totally blanked that there was that. And then, of course, below that you have like Connecticut, Massachusetts. Alright, we're almost there. Yeah, just always think about the noxious reaction, nearness postulate, things like that. And what they show you is that, you know, it's basically just controlled by things from on high on an empirical basis, overextended basis, and you'll go along with it. Like if I was to introduce the same thing to you and I say, if I explain the process fully or make you aware of it, you'd be horrified by that. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. But you're already doing it. You just don't realize it's dressed up. So like I open a store, right, in your neighborhood, and I say, all this money is going to go to people overseas and, big corporate CEO heads and stuff like that all around the world, globalist kind of thing. And then all, we're going to get our products that way too. We're going to use questionable tactics. We're going to, we're going to put local businesses out of business. We're going to, do all of those things. We're going to, again, kill the local businesses, and we're going to get these all globally around the world and stuff like that. You would question that. You would think, oh, buy local, support the local environment, economy, but for the convenience of those things that you get along with that, you would absolutely give into it. So the thing is that we should be crossing over into New Hampshire like right now. I don't get it. Feels like it should have already happened almost. Like, what is the capital of New Hampshire? I don't know. The capitals are sometimes tricky, right? Because you would think it's often not the biggest city. It's often not the city you think of. Capital of New Hampshire. And then when it is, you'll be Concord. Okay, see, I didn't know that. And then, the biggest city is something else, right? Biggest city, I just looked it up too. Manchester, okay. Let me compare this. 115,000 people. That sounds like a lot, but that's Syracuse, 145. So it's not as big as Syracuse. Which, to be fair, Syracuse is a very wide area, so I don't know how you consider that, but still. The more I realize some of these other cities, Syracuse is one of the widest, what people consider to be Syracuse anyway, areas in the whole world probably, of it covers such an immense amount of ground, right? When you say this city, I'm in Burlington, Vermont, or I'm in this, none of them are that wide. It'll go, there's North Syracuse, there's Cicero, there's Fayetteville would even be considered whatever, Syracuse, it's a very wide area, so it's kind of deceptive, right, that it's not densely populated, but it's just so big. Unless you could argue, well, some of those technically aren't Syracuse, they're considered other areas, but people say it in a more general sense, we're just in Syracuse, a suburb of Syracuse. Whereas with some of these places, it's the city, and then there's just a bunch of empty space around it, right? It's not developed fully. What is going on? Why are we not crossing over yet? It's gotta be coming out soon. I just feel like that's one of the coolest things actually about the U.S. is you cross over from one state to the other. I don't know how that is in other places. Maybe it is the same, but there's nothing. There's no checkpoint. There's no, right? You won't even hardly notice it, which is good. The freedom to move between the states and stuff like that. But eventually, they're going to do that. Where they're going to check your shit for whatever. The same way the borders themselves. I'm almost surprised that in this day and age, wherever you can't go in the airport without being checked, you can't go anywhere without being checked. A lot of the time, that comes down just to manpower and waste of resources. It's just not even worth it for them to do it. not that they wouldn't want to control every aspect of your life. It's just a means and effort to do it. And so one of the things that happens is like the false absolute default, like where everything is curated by people, so you can't be taken as face value. Well, this must be the border of the state, like the lake to my left probably is what disconnects it. Oftentimes it's a mountain or it's a lake that distinguishes borders, because of course, absolutist quote that I've always used, I use in my political compass test, borders are just lines on a map, right? Countries are just lines on a map. Newberry, here it is, our first look at New Hampshire. Well, technically we haven't crossed, or wait, I don't get it. Oh, I think I went the wrong way. It's like telling me to turn around. Maybe I fucked up. Oh, okay. Never mind. I was saying we should have been there, but I think I missed a turn. Damn it. God damn it. Shouldn't be too much farther still, but so I would have been there, but or now it's given up on. Wait, now I can't decide. Does it want me to go back or not? That's often again real life invisible walls, whether it be water, whether it be. What is it telling me to do? I don't get it. Oh, I fucked up. I have to go 4 miles back. Where was it? I didn't see it. Huh. Well, whatever. We got to see whatever this town is. Nice little lake, although it looks dirty as hell. Yeah, like a lot of things that you treat as false absolute default are actually outward. Everything is outward. You're a specific era, you're a specific society, you're a specific technology. So do you really have to take ownership of it or insist upon it or realize like, okay, you're doing it conditionally, reactionary, but it's not your choice, it's not absolute, it's conditional, it could be held accountable, there's no ego in it, there's no pride in it, it could be done better, zero sum, everything like that. So the thing is that yeah, there's a certain expression I have, like, there's more truth in fiction than in reality, because in reality you're censored by government, etc., and you have to appease and appeal people collectively, socially, and you have to suck up and don't be mean, don't be rude, like, even though you're just telling the truth. So there's more truth in fiction because you can escape from all that. Or there's more freedom in folly, favoritism, entertainment, escapism, because in the real world everything is controlled and you defer to that as though it's absolute even though it's not. Whereas in entertainment, etc., it's more free, it's more open, you can do whatever you want, be like in a game. Versus, that's the irony of, like, somebody is growing up playing video games and you're like, oh, it's just games. But it's not just games. The absolutist in this sees a lot of the truth of existence. They're seeking refuge in folly, favoritism, and escapism because the world around them is so fully controlled and monopolized, and they're not free at all, and everything they do in life is restricted. So they seek refuge in something outside of that where they actually can be free, and they can see what freedom is like and self-actualize compared to the completely not free state that they're in normally. And it also allows them, the fact that it's necessary shows you the cognitive dissonance associated with that. So it doesn't validate to say, like, oh, this contrived state is absolute, and look at me enjoying this folly favoritism. It's that it's the last refuge that, okay, you're not vouching for the state, you're even distracting from the state, but you tolerate it or you're subject to it anyway. So it's not a choice really. It's more just a part of the way you're controlled, or part of the way you have to distract yourself to tolerate and cope with the cognitive dissonance-inducing contrivance state. And it also allows you to do something else, like I don't know. Basically, it's a much deeper meaning to it. It's not, it's just entertainment. It's just whatever. It's not just that. It's the fact that you have to control people when they're young, especially by distracting them with that. It's the fact that people are in a non-value subversive state where they care about value things like that don't even matter and aren't even real, or they see it as an outlet and overcompensation for a subversive state that they're in, or they have to distract themselves, or so they're not credible, or they have to seek refuge and freedom in that because they can't find it in the real world. So it's all of those things. Like, you control every aspect of life, and then you wonder and ask why people seek refuge in fly favoritism, because that's the only thing they can. That's the only thing they can do. That's a non-accountable contrivance state. Like, you define people by their reaction to unqualified empirical authority that's outward itself. What about the accountability of that? Like, you restrict everything people do, and then you say, look at what they're doing, but they're only doing that because you restricted everything else, or that's the only thing you allow, or whatever. So they're defined by their reaction to something, as though that reaction is outward, not that what they're reacting to was itself outward and could be held accountable, right? The false inherent contrivance response. So okay, let me pay attention, because I don't know what the hell happened. It's saying seesaw, but where? What is that sign relating to? There's like a railroad track. Oh, it's on the left here. Okay, half a mile we go right, and that must take me there now. It was a short drive, but now I'm getting annoyed because I just missed that. Oh, these stupid things, man. Pretty soon your car is going to have that built in. It'll tell them whenever you're speeding. Right? Machination that could be used to free you is instead used to control you, kind of similar to how, with all the means and excesses we have now, we use it as an excuse not to think and to treat and validate whatever contrivance state we're in, instead of using them now as freedom to question it and hold it accountable and think and define ourselves in mind. We let the physical state define and control us, even in excesses of things we don't need, right? Whereas, again, Absolutist is just a means to an end. It's just a zero-sum process. So that bridge takes you from there to Vermont, except it doesn't, or to New Hampshire, except no. But it should be coming out soon. I'm very confused. I keep expecting it or thinking that I miss it. Or like, let's look at this concept of just like social collective validation. You could say or do the same thing, but it'll be ignored or whatever, and then based on who says it or how they say it, it'll be valued. And so, okay, now it should be New Hampshire, Vermont. It is just a dinky little bridge like that. But where's the sign that just says New Hampshire? It didn't have quite the same welcome as some of these. This is a good display of the nomadic principle too. It's like, no matter where you go, you might see everything the same, or you're always the same, and you view people all the same, you value them the same. Like, everything is competed over in a half-assed zero-sum mean state, but there's no measure behind it. There's no true value or measure. So that's why, the richest person isn't the world's first trillionaire, absolutist even. It's the minimalist who doesn't derive value from that, because even the trillionaire can always be richer as a zero-sum process based on how you define value. But if you don't define value by that, now you're at peace with less or with nothing, or you just separate. Zero-sum means it's just zero-sum means. It's just a way to survive. It's just a way to live. It's not defining your value or your worth or your your anything else. It just is a means to an end, and then you define your value by thought, by experience, by anything else. Look, we're in a new place that we've never been before. Oh, it's a McDonald's. Wow. And this Cumberland thing is all over the place in this area. Like, I feel like I've seen the Shaw's is something that's different, right? Let's see, is this Walmart going to be a super center, or I guess we could check it later. Okay. This is like the first town coming in from Vermont, or at least from the area that I was coming in. That wasn't a bad drive, really, but it's just this state should be a little more impressive than Vermont population-wise and stuff, I would imagine. Yeah, like people slave away for zero-sum means, but it is just zero-sum means. So again, pretend, okay, you can solve all the problems of life by being a minimalist in this way. Sacrifice, oh, you're doing that for your girlfriend, for your husband, wife. Okay, so sacrifice the stimulacmy, remove the need. You don't care about that. You don't need that. And then, oh, you're struggling to put food on the table, so don't have kids. It might sound like, oh, that's selfish or something bad, but it's actually the opposite. It's like, you're choosing what you're doing instead of, oh, feeling like you're forced by something to do something you don't really want. Other people can do that. You're not stopping them from doing it, but it's like a compulsory state. And so what it means is like, oh, you don't care about appearances, so you don't slave away to appease them, or you don't care about, fancy food and stuff. You're happy. So like that's the one thing that contrivance can never explain away, because they're in a half-mass controlled state, outwardly insistent. A dude sleeping on the ground in the woods, right? You sleep in the grass right there somewhere. That they wouldn't allow that, or they would project it as, oh, that's inability. You lack the ability to do something. But what if you're at peace with that? So then what? But the people who aren't at peace with it, oh, they'll outwardly insist and monopolize nature itself and control everything. It's like, So it's like, you could be at peace with that, but it'll be framed like, oh, they lack the ability, but they don't need those things. They don't need all the benefits and luxuries you have. Maybe they're not as selfish as you and possessive and materialistic, and, oh, you're worrying about your dress and worrying about your makeup and worrying about your, conveniences. It's like, oh, they lack the ability to do those things. They're not civilized enough to do those things, but those things are really just artificial and needed to overcompensate for a contrived, controlled state in which you need to overcompensate to reinforce the controlled existence that you have. And so right, so is it that, oh, they lack the ability, or you're more smart or more civilized or something, harder working, or is it that they're at peace and you're not? They're consistent and neutral and minimalist, and they don't need anything, and they define value by the mind, not the physical body, like the stuff of animals, and they don't obsess over and control by half inherent, by creating a false absolute egotistical overcompensation basis like stimuli-acme specification or other gratification that way, collective pretense versus amalgam theory. So they'd be at peace. They wouldn't require anything. They'd not desire anything. They're very minimalistic. They consume very little. They do very little. They don't need all the overcompensations that you have. It's like, So frame it that way instead. How about that? You're selfish and possessive and insecure and not at peace with your own state, requiring constant overcompensation for the imbalance of it. Not that the minimalist would be lacking the ability to do that, but that they don't need to do it. They choose not to do it. Right? They don't require all of the things you require. Not that they lack them or lack the ability to do them. So you realize, okay, everything, aware of the nature of the process, no basis for structure, authority, right? It's all subversive. You defer as it is to contrivance, and then they want you to defer further to random individuals. Let me see what else is really around here. I might have gone into one of these dead zones again of like, let's sit here for a minute and enjoy the view. Let's see if this is a feasible thing to do. Or actually, let's check the next one here. Hang on. I've thought about doing this at times. Like, okay, we pick a spot and we sit here, and it's like you get to watch this while I do the stream, right? Like, this looks really cool. That looks like a great spot to just, you know. Of course, you'll be bothered by somebody at some point. Like, why are you sitting there? You need permission. But you get like some of these scenic spots to appreciate. Like, yeah, let's do it as a test. How long could we sit here and do this before somebody bothers us? I think the fallacy of permission, like, you need a reason to do something, not that you would need a reason not to do it. You're not bothering anybody, but they'll bother you, right? That's the same thing. The minimalist sleeping on the ground, whatever, and they are bothered by others because those it'll be in the name of some benevolent thing. Don't you want all these, like, think about it literally. Somebody from society coming out to the woods or a tribe and like, don't you want all these luxuries? Don't you want the soda that gives us cavities and poisons us? Don't you want liquor to distract yourself from the cognitive dissonance of that contrivance state that you're not a part of, but that we are, to cope with the artifice of our overextended contrivance state with all its inconsistencies, where it poses false absolutes as a pretense of control, and it where it poses false absolutes as a pretense of control, but then is inconsistent with those very same pretenses, so can't hold them accountable, right? Don't you want all these luxuries and distractions and things that you don't really want and don't really need, and a lot of the need of them supposedly comes from the imbalance of that contrivance state in the first place, right? And so the thing is that you'd be seeing that, like, don't you want all these things? But what if they don't? What if they're at peace without them, right? So you're going out to them and outwardly insisting, don't you want all these luxuries, conveniences, whatever, like a lot of the only necessary for the half-mass contrivance state that you're reduced to, versus being your free, full self away from that. Would you rather be a free, full person fending for yourself, or be a half-mass human function overextended? It's like an elevated bread and circuses thing that tries to make up for that. And so I guess I'll go back there in a minute, but hang on.